Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Steve Williams, the mayor of Huntington, and welcome to the Reggie Oliver street dedication ceremony. Now, those of you who knew Reggie as a coach, one thing, he was always on time, and it is directly noon right now. So Reggie is sitting here tugging at my shoulder saying, it is time to get this ceremony underway. I want to say a particular thanks to one of Reggie's teammates, Lester Hicks. Called me about a little over a month ago and indicated that why can't the city do something in honor of Reggie Oliver? And we talked a little bit, and I thought, well, shoot fire. As the mayor, we'll just make it happen. Now, what we were wondering is that where do we do this? Reggie, as you know, wore the number 12. We're thinking 12th Street and 12th Avenue. Have it right there, and that would be significant for Reggie. But the reality is, Reggie didn't spend any time at 12th Street and 12th Avenue unless he was just driving by. What we decided is that the one significant place for Reggie in his time here in Huntington was at Fairfield Stadium. And this entire area is where Fairfield Stadium was. Why right here? For those of us who played ball here, this was the entrance into Fairfield Stadium for the athletes. Now, what's interesting, I was talking to some of my staff about what we were doing, and they were saying, well, no, down on Huntington Avenue right there, that was the entrance into Fairfield Stadium. I said, no, it wasn't. It was for those who didn't play. It was for those who didn't participate. It was those who were sitting in the stands. But for those of us who played, this was the entrance. Now, Coach Dawson, I'm sure that as you drive by here every single day, you don't see these buildings. When I'm driving by here, I see the gate, I see the entrance going in, and frankly, as I was telling Dr. Gilbert a moment ago, the locker room is still there, and that's where the forensic sciences is housed principally. And when I've gone through there, I've walked in and I said, this is where my locker was in my freshman year. This is where my locker was my sophomore year and junior and senior years. There's a lesson here. Life might change around us, but we are walking around with the vision of today with the experiences of yesterday. Reggie Oliver meant everything to those of us who came to know him and love him. And that's why we're here today. I went to Huntington High School. I didn't play for Reggie when he was a coach at Huntington High School. I played at Marshall. My senior year at Huntington High School was Reggie's senior year here at Marshall. And during the summer of 1973, every evening at 6 p.m., we would go down on that hot turf down in Fairfield Stadium, and we would start working out and running pass patterns. Charlie Henry was there, Lanny Steed was here, Roy Tabb was there, Lester Hicks was there, and there was this one man who had coached here who just kept coming by. He couldn't stay away. He'd quit coaching. He was there so much, they had the football that we were going around with. Bob Eschball was there with us. The football that they had written in magic marker, Red's ball. Red Dawson, right here. Red Dawson was the reason that Reggie showed up. So with that, we have several athletes. We have several athletes here who played with Reggie. Would you all please stand if you're able and let us recognize you? Yeah. Alan Meadows. I know there's several that are watching live as we're right here. We're here because we loved Reggie Oliver. He loved Marshall University, and he loved Huntington, West Virginia, and we're here to pay him honor. With that, I'd like to introduce a teammate of mine. He came and played right after, not long after Reggie. He's now the athletic director at Marshall University, our friend and the best director of athletics in the nation, Mike Hamrick.
Thank you, Mayor. By the way, you're the best mayor in the country, too. So, and I really believe that. And, you know, when Steve and I were teammates, and Steve and I got in many vicious battles on this field for about 3 years. And since I got the microphone last, I won most of them. So it's an honor for the mayor. And what a great mayor, in all seriousness, what a great mayor, and what great things he's done for our city. And I love him like a brother. And every time the mayor and I, this is what college athletics and teammates and coaches and what sports does for you. Every time Steve and I, whether we're arguing about something or whether we're agreeing on something, and Steve, we always say to each other as we conclude our discussions, love you, brother. Love you, brother. Sounds right, doesn't it, Mickey?
Sounds right.
Sounds right.
Exactly.
You know, when you, and I've jotted some notes here, and I hope you will be patient with me, but when you talk about the fabric of Huntington, and you talk about the essence of the greatest comeback story in the history of sports, you talk about Reggie Oliver. I grew up watching Reggie play quarterback at Marshall. I grew up idolizing Reggie Oliver. I wanted to be like Reggie Oliver, even though I wasn't the quarterback, but I watched Reggie play a lot of football games. Fortunately, it turned out that I got to play at the same school, and I got to play for Reggie, who was an assistant coach when I played here. We remained friends throughout life. And Reggie would constantly call me as I moved up into administration, and he would say, "Hey, Hamrick, Oliver here. Coach Oliver, remember me?" I said, "Yes, Coach. Yeah. Congratulations. Saw where you got this job or that." And he would always call me and congratulate me wherever I was. And, you know, it meant so much to me. And Reggie asked me on occasions when he was working through his coaching career if I would write a letter for him or if I'd make a call. And I always did, and I always really was happy to do it. You know, when people call you, sometimes some people call you and ask you to help them. You go, man. When Reggie called, I was so excited to help him. Like I said at the spring ceremony in 2018, when Reggie spoke, I've never been around a person who loved and cared about this university and this community more than Reggie Oliver. Everyone knows Reggie's story. He came here with 4 others from Druid High School in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Red Dawson brought him here. And there's a story within that I hope one day people will really know and understand what type of person Red Dawson is. And you know, there were 4 other souls that were brought here that were aboard Southern Airways Flight 932, and they were lost. They were Reggie's friends, and they will forever be a part of the 75. Reggie is part of the rebirth of Marshall football. Reggie was the core of the Young Thundering Herd. Reggie helped bring back Marshall football from the worst disaster ever in sports history. He told us all about the play 2 years ago when he spoke at the fountain ceremony. The play. Reggie says it, can say it, and I can say it in my sleep, Reggie. 213 bootleg screen. Remember that, Mickey? Yeah. Yes, he did. Terry Gardner. How about that, Red? I think Red might have called that play, didn't you, Red? Yes, you did. Red always remembers the plays that he calls that score touchdowns. He doesn't remember the other ones. Reggie recounted the game-winning touchdown pass to Terry Gardner. He captivated us with what he wants his legacy and the legacy of his teammates to be. That's why we're here. Reggie told us at the fountain ceremony 2 years ago, quote, "Take a look at yourself and see where you're going to fit in this history of Marshall University. There's room for us all. You still have time to do something here at Marshall University that we all will be remembered for." Then Reggie told us, all we want out of the deal is just don't forget us. Remember those people who helped put the first brick in the foundation. That's what Reggie said. Reggie, we will never forget you. Thank you, Mayor. It's a great honor to stand here and share these words with the people that are here today. Thank you. Oh, excuse me. No, come on. Forgot, man. Bad mistake on my part. At this time, it's my honor to introduce my boss and the president of Marshall University, who I can tell you was a huge fan and is a huge fan of Reggie Oliver, Dr. Jerry Gilbert, the president of Marshall University.
Good afternoon. I want to extend my greetings to the family of Reggie Oliver. I'm so pleased that you're here with us today to recognize and remember a true son of Marshall and my friend Reggie. We're all so proud of Reggie, and we continue to mourn his passing. We truly miss him. Reggie had a lot of friends, thousands of friends. I walked up today and saw Red Dawson, many others here, and was very impressed. I want to mention a few people from Reggie's era that had a lot to do with today's event and advocated for Reggie. Lester Hicks, Paul Jackson, Mickey Jackson, Dennis Foley, Alan Meadows, and Chuck Dozer, just to mention a few. And then there's our mayor, Steve Williams, who ultimately made today happen. I thank everyone for having something to do with today's ceremony, and for those of you that turned out today to honor Reggie. I have to tell you that I grew to love Reggie in a very short period of time. When I first came to Marshall in 2016, Reggie Oliver reached out to me in those first few weeks and welcomed me to the campus. He wanted me to know that I was part of the team and that he was rooting for me, and not just as the president of Marshall University, but for me as a person. You see, Reggie knew people and the importance of relationships and friendships. He knew what it was like to lead through difficult times. And of course, he knew football, but it was Reggie's zest for the human connection that was his real passion. That passion was surely born out of a tragic lesson that life on this earth, as the Bible says, is but a vapor. It's not easy to lose so many close friends and mentors at a young age in just an instant. There was a lot resting on Reggie's shoulders as the university attempted to rebuild its football program. I think that speaks to the strength of Reggie's character and to who he was as a person. He was someone we could all look up to as a role model in overcoming adversity. He was someone who led a football program, and with others, many of whom are here today, led a university and a community to rise from the ashes. Reggie carried that strength throughout his life. He was a force, wasn't he? He was talented. Man, I remember him singing patches in that solid white suit on that spring ceremony, fountain ceremony. All I can say is what a guy Reggie was. He was more than a football player and more than a coach. He was a compass to thousands of people, and even in the midst of incredible sadness, there is joy in living. How appropriate it is for all of us to stand here today and honor him in this way. Reggie was an inspiration, a true beacon, showing the way. I am one of those individuals he guided, and I'm glad to have known him. He enriched my life, and I know that he enriched many others as well. Reggie Oliver loved Marshall University, and Marshall University loved Reggie. He will forever be a part of the Marshall family. Being from the South, like Reggie, I know how important family is, and I'm so glad that Reggie's family is here with us today to share this happy day. I am honored to be able to introduce to you Reggie's uncle, the Reverend James Lee Hughes. Reverend Hughes was born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. They know a lot about football down there. And he was educated in the public school system. He attended St. Bernard College, where he received a Bachelor of Arts degree. He holds a Master of Divinity degree from Ashland Theological Seminary and a degree in Instructional System Technology from Indiana University. Also, he completed a chaplaincy internship and residency at the Lewis Stokes Cleveland VA Medical Center. Reverend Hughes has served in many higher education positions, as well as having roles in mental health education and management. Notably, he was the Lewis Stokes Cleveland VA Medical Center as a case manager in the homeless program and a case manager in the transitional residence for veterans diagnosed with mental health issues, PTSD, drug use, and other concerns. He is also a retired major of the U.S. Army Medical Service Corps. Reverend Hughes serves presently as the Associate Minister at the Mount Zion Church of Oakland Village, Ohio. He lives in Brunswick, Ohio, and is married to the former Ora Barnes. They have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. What a family, what an uncle that we have here today. Reverend Hughes, welcome to Huntington.
There are a lot of people here at Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia, that we can say thanks to. I'd like to say thank you, Mayor, for going the extra mile of the way and having a day named after Reggie Oliver. The other thing is, the gentleman not here, but Lester Hicks, tireless, called and worked things out to get this day possible. So we thank them, and Brian Chambers out of the mayor's office, an exceptional individual who knows how to get things done. And John Sutherland and the Green, Big Green, we want to give them a great round of applause. Honorable Mayor Williams, President Gilbert, faculty, staff, students, and members of the Reggie Oliver Foundation group and board, Mrs. Maddie Underwood, family and friends, to Miss Carla Hargrove, and to all of the many Thundering Herd family members around the world, good afternoon. It is my distinct honor and privilege to be here today to see a street named in honor of my nephew, Reginald Reggie Oliver. On behalf of my sister, his mother, we say thank you to the City of Huntington. Thank you to Marshall University for naming a street after Reggie. Let us give Mrs. Underwood a round of applause. Just wave your hand. Mrs. Underwood is 93 years of age and wanted to be here to see the unveiling of a sign saying Reggie Oliver. We thank God for her ability to be here today. As the sun shines and is now going in, on this day we want to thank God for our ability to be here. And one thing I want you to know, as the sacred place, this place, if you would just close your eyes for one moment and visualize the blood, the sweat, the tears, the anguish, the joy, and the love that the young men of Marshall University football team played at this point in time, and we say, God bless you. Huntington and Marshall was a very special place for Reggie, for he felt completely relaxed and completely at home. He loved Marshall University with a love like none other, the green and white. He will forever cherish the green and white. In the words of Dr. Benjamin Mays, said there's a poem that is penned by Parren Mitchell, said so many, many years ago, and it was taken up by Congressman Elijah Cumming, who said it 20 times a day. And it's a very simple poem, but it's one that he lived by. It says, I only have a minute, 60 seconds in it, forced upon me. I did not choose it, but I know that I must use it. Give an account for it if I abuse it. Suffer if I lose it. Only a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. My nephew used every second of that minute, and he knew that eternity was in it. Yes, he was a legend, a walking hero at Marshall University in Huntington. Reggie knew about eternity and used every minute of it. So be glad and celebrate, for he's always here to sing, to preach, to joke, and to smile, just to make you laugh. Well, I want to tell you a little small story about Reggie and myself about at the age of about 8 years of age. We lived in a place called Daly Bottom, and that place now is the site of the home of the Bear Bryant Museum in Tuscaloosa. Well, for a baseball, Reggie and I took a rock and we wrapped it up in socks. See, we couldn't afford a baseball or a softball. So we took the baseball and we started to play with the baseball. Reggie was the catcher and I was the pitcher. We didn't have a glove or a mitten. But as fast as the fastball came in, Reggie said, throw it again, throw it again. Well, on another day, we went across the street to the Alabama baseball field. And at the back of that baseball field, that was an old catcher's mitt. Reggie said, I got it now, boy. You don't know what's going to happen now. He was always one looking for the positive things in life. Oh, we started playing baseball. We had another little fella that played with us, and he struck out. Red, give me the bat. I'll show you where it's at, for I know I am the greatest. Reggie got up, and I threw that curve ball, and as soon as that curve ball went way over into the ditch, and Reggie said, I told you I was the greatest. In his final speech here, Reggie talked about his time at Marshall. He talked about the tragedy. And if no one knows about the tragedy, those guys that was in the crash were dragons, druid dragons, fiery dragons. They had won everything and went undefeated, and now they were at Marshall University, and they said, if we've done it there, we can do it there. Reggie said when he came to Marshall University and drove up on the field, he looked around and he said, I played on better fields in high school than this. So Reggie loved this school and he loved this city. He was confident, he was compassionate, he was loving, and he was humorous. And there's a poem that I'd like to read that's entitled The Path by Paul Laurence Dunbar. There are no beaten paths to glory heights. There are no rules to compass greatness known. Each for himself must cleave a path alone and press his own way forward in the fight. Smooth is the way to ease the calm and delight, and soft the road sleuth closes on its own. But he who craves the flower of life full blown must struggle up in his armor delight. This poem sums up the life of Reggie. There are many obstacles and challenges on the way to success. He faced obstacles and challenges and won. In closing, let me leave you with these words from the late great writer poet Maya Angelou, who said, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, and some humor, and some style." Reggie had all of those. If you're going to live, leave a legacy, make a mark on the world that can't be erased. The path is here, Marshall. The path is here, Huntington. The challenges are ahead, but you can overcome all obstacles if you only look ahead. In the Hebrew words, you would say, Barahaba Reggie Bahavish Reggie. Welcome home, Reggie. Welcome home. The next speaker will be Mickey Jackson, Reggie Oliver Endowment Scholarship Foundation.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Each and every one of you, I would like to say good afternoon. I feel so close to Huntington, West Virginia, as if I know each of you, but I want to extend that greeting to each and every one. And to close out this great day, and it is super a super great day, outstanding day. Outstanding day put together by outstanding people. I'm so proud of the fact that we've got a coordinated effort between our city of Huntington, West Virginia. I spent 10 years here. Our honorable mayor is supposed to be the best mayor in the country. Our president of the university, Dr. Jerry Gilbert. It's so great to see them coming together to create a project like this. And so thanks go out to the greatest athletic director, Mike. Is John here as well? John? But all of this takes place, basically, we could have learned it from Reggie Oliver, because he was all about leadership. And many of you don't know this, but just a little private story. November 15th, Sunday morning, 7 a.m. in the morning. I was in the car actually on the day before, on Saturday. Coach Carl Coker and I went to Penn State to scout Ohio University. We were scheduled to play Ohio University right after the East Carolina game. So we struggled getting back to Huntington, making phone calls, stopping along the way. Finally went into the football office about 6 a.m. in the morning, Sunday morning. 7 a.m. Sunday morning, November 15th, 1970, Reggie Oliver walks into the office. And this is something, I guess, right along the lines of everything that you've said, we all have said about Reggie. He was a special person. He told me, he said he had met that night before all the evening with the other freshman football players. And if we had an obligation to play Ohio University on the following Saturday, he's willing to bring the team out and lead us to our final victory of the year. Now, the football program at Marshall University could have come back a week later if we'd listened to Reggie Oliver, but that's the type of person Reggie was. He was a leader. He was always looking forward to events and things in the future, and he was a leader on the field, not only on the field, but off the field as well. So we thanked our community leaders. We thanked the pastor, who's the best pastor in the world today. Excellent message. And we thank the family and friends of Reggie Oliver. Leadership, really, you don't just stumble on leadership. These qualities that Reggie shared with us and the qualities that are being exhibited throughout the city and the country now with the reflection of our city and our university. Leadership requires people with a purpose, and it requires people with passion. And these are two ingredients that I found that was very important in leadership, very important in teamwork. My first teamwork experience was stepping on the athletic field, a football field. Very clear definition of where you need to go. You get the ball, and it's marked there. 1 yard, 5 yards. 10 yards, you get 4 more tries. Clear set goals. And that was where I learned another lesson, the fact that it didn't matter how tall you were, how short you were, how heavy you were, or how light you were, how fast you were, or how slow you were. You carried that ball across the goal line, you got 6 points. And I realized that where else do you have clear definition of goals laid out for teammates? And a team has to come together with a purpose to score. The team has to come together and stop the defense, the offense, the opponents. So you learn those lessons early. I learned them early in athletics, and carry on. It was a excellent stepping stone going into the business world after I left coaching. Because if you put a team together, a strong team, you score a point, you got a point. You got a purchase order in business, you got that order. and it's step by step. We have made several steps here in Huntington, West Virginia, and I always get a pleasure coming in from Ohio. I cross the river, I catch the first bridge across, and come in Interstate 64. Big smile comes on my face when I make a left turn there and get on to Hal Greer Boulevard. And where will that take me? It takes me all the way back to my home at Marshall University, back where, as a freshman out of high school, just lost his mother, opened their arms and said, "Welcome home." So this is an excellent opportunity today. And when I first got the phone call from some individuals around the country that showed me purpose and they showed me passion, and this was the Reggie Oliver, the endowment scholarship. We talked about the things that they wanted to do at the university. It got my attention, and I said I would gladly volunteer to just watch what you're doing, make sure you don't go too far and make the wrong turn. So, President Gilbert, if these guys make a wrong turn, let me know. But it's just a pleasure working and seeing. In fact, another factor that tells you how Reggie was off the field, 2 members of that foundation are here today. Coming in, Charles Dozier, where you want to stand, and Paul Jackson, the president of the foundation. Now, you believe at one time during Reggie's stay in Huntington, these guys were his roommates. So you see how far that goes back, and the warmth and the feeling that you get just being in Huntington, West Virginia with Huntington people. So I'm very pleased that I just want to say that I certainly like these pictures that we have here up front. The one I like is the one on the left here where Reggie's throwing that ball. I mean, you get excited when you're a football coach, you know, you get excited when you see a player in action, ready to go. And he was always in action, ready to go, strong leader on a football team. A friend of mine in Columbus told me that he had a figurine that of Reggie Oliver, and when I saw it, I said, "You don't need this. This is something that we need to get to Miss Maddie, so she sees her son, her hero, number 12, passing the football. This is number 12, passing the football. And this is for her. As you walk past this in your home, you can wave at him, you can catch the pass, one of the many touchdown passes that he threw. And I hope you just enjoy it. It says, Reggie, Marshall University, 1970, 1973, and Marshall University Hall of Fame, 1984. So we'll get that to you. Thank you. As I said before, the young men that I talked to with the Reggie Oliver Endowment Foundation, how purposeful and how passionate they were. These guys have really put together a program. They've got a scholarship already to the athletic department. And this is the plaque. You want to?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mickey. This is a beautiful plaque that we put together to make sure we get this. To start off the Reggie Oliver Endowed Scholarship. And it's got a picture of Reggie here speaking at the fountain, a picture of Reggie throwing the football, and a picture of the young thundering herd. And our goal is to endow a scholarship for a student athlete in the name of Reggie Oliver. And we're going to kick that off today. And I'm happy to tell you that we've made some calls. I've made 3 calls, and I've shared with Paul and Mickey that we're off to a very, very good start to endow a scholarship in the name of Reggie Oliver. So some young person like Reggie will have the opportunity to come to Marshall University and maybe be the next Reggie Oliver. So thank you, Paul.
Good job, good job. Let's give him a hand. Now that's a football scholarship. Now this is a football scholarship
Yes.
that will be awarded.
Thank you.
I have our honorable mayor. Steve and I go back, way back to high school, right? Huntington High School. He'll close out the program, and thanks again. It was great seeing everybody.
Coach Jackson pointed out we go way back now. There are not 6 degrees of separation here. It's like 2 degrees of separation. All of us are connected in some fashion. As I indicated, we practiced and played right here at Fairfield Stadium. When I was at Huntington High, we practiced and played here. During our preseason practice, we were down in the end zone, this end zone, doing some goal line offense, and I was a quarterback. And there was this one man that was standing right beyond on the wall taking notes. It was Coach Jackson recruiting some of us, taking notes down. There were 4 of us on that team that signed that year to come play at Marshall, but he didn't hang around. He ended up going up to this one small school up in Columbus at the Ohio State University, and he was coaching this one young running back named Archie Griffin. Yeah. As I indicated to you earlier, that I had the opportunity that one summer to be able to work out with Reggie. Miss Maddie, he was a teacher, even then when he was a player. I was a quarterback, looked up to Reggie, and as we were throwing, he came up to me and he said, "You're going to be throwing a lot of interceptions this year." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Your eyes aren't looking down the field. You need your eyes to always be looking down the field. If you're not, you're going to miss what's right in front of you. Keep your eyes looking down the field." When he came back to Huntington to speak at the fountain ceremony, I had an opportunity to be able to go up and speak to him. Now, when you see Reggie, first thing you notice is that big smile. And then that baritone voice. But if you go up and shake his hand, he had the biggest hands that you would ever imagine. Long, strong fingers. And I was always amazed at the strength of his hands and how long his fingers were, until I went over and got to speak to his mama just a little bit ago. You look at her hands, that's where Reggie got his hands. You look at those pretty hands and those long fingers with all that nail polish. Now, he didn't have nail polish on, but his nails were always just right. Reggie came up to me right before he was speaking, knowing that I was the mayor, and he came up, "Mayor, Your Honor," and then he pulled me in close to him. He said, "Are you keeping your eyes down the field?" I was 17 years old. I'm 64 years old now. 47 years later, I'm still hearing him coach me, because what we're doing in Huntington, how we're trying to help people, always keeping our eyes down the field. And we're able to have this as a result of the example that Reggie set for us, even when he didn't know that he was setting it. So in this regard, we are naming not a street for Reggie, we're naming a city block for Reggie. As I indicated earlier, individuals look and they see the Irma Bird Center, and then they see the housing that is developed for the students here. But for those of us who have been here all these years, and the sweat that we had here, the blood that we had here, that parking lot in November 1973, Reggie had just played University of Dayton, and Marshall won that game. Reggie, if I'm not mistaken, went 19 for 23 passing that day. Great athlete. But that was the day that I was also, after the game, offered a scholarship to play at Marshall University. All these connections come here. This is hallowed ground to us. And with that hallowed ground, this is going to be known as Reggie Oliver Square, that encompasses all of the property, all of the streets around where Fairfield Stadium was located. Reggie Oliver Square. So with that, we look to honor Reggie today on behalf of the citizens of Huntington. We offer this proclamation: whereas Reginald Reggie Oliver is a shining star and football legend of Marshall University and Huntington, West Virginia, and was a grateful, dedicated, loyal, and committed leader. And whereas Reggie Oliver was born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama on October 20th, 1951, graduated from Druid High School, and came to Huntington to play for the Marshall Thundering Herd football team. And whereas Reggie Oliver was a member of the 1970 Thundering Herd football team as a freshman at Marshall University, and whereas on November 14, 1970, 75 people, including Marshall football players, coaches, staff, and community leaders, lost their lives tragically when their return flight from East Carolina University crashed near Tri-State Airport. Reggie Oliver knew then he had to lead the program back to prominence. Whereas Reggie Oliver was featured in the 2006 We Are Marshall movie, which chronicled the valiant efforts to keep the Marshall University football team alive in the aftermath of the crash, and featured Reggie leading the young Thundering Herd to its first victory after the tragedy. You notice the sun is coming out now when we're talking about this. Whereas Reggie Oliver provided significant leadership and community involvement in the education and well-being of our youth through Omega Psi-Phi, and I can hear him saying, Q Psi-Phi till the day I die. As a founding member and through several, there you go, the Qs. As a founding member and through several Masonic organizations, whereas Reggie Oliver passed away in Huntsville, Alabama on August 14, 2018, the players from Druid High School were united again, and Reggie had a saying, I have angels with me all the time, and they go wherever I go. Lead on, Reggie. Now, therefore, I, Steve Williams, Mayor of the City of Huntington, Cabell, and Wayne Counties, do hereby proclaim the 23rd day of October, 2020 to be Reggie Oliver Day in the City of Huntington, and encourage all people, businesses, and organizations and institutions to join in honoring this distinguished individual. Mrs. Underwood, I'm going to bring this to you. We have the sign here that is going to be on each of the corners, and if the family members would come up here so that we can unveil this. Miss Underwood, please. Thank you for coming. Thank you so very much. In honor and love of Reggie Oliver. Reggie Oliver Square. We're going to have it placed on each corner all around. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much, and thank you to Reggie's mother for making time to be able to be here. This is wonderful. Reggie is looking down upon us with a smile. We are Go Herd.